Hey, I'm Doug Wilkerson with Central Christian Center and Saturday Night Live, Life Recovery Ministry here in Joplin at the church. And I want to welcome you to an encouraging word with Doug today. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Hey, and today's message or thought, I guess would be better to say, is life is too hard. Have you ever thought that or said that, or maybe you never have, but maybe you've heard somebody say, life is too hard. Why is life so hard? How about that one? Or why can't life be easy? You know, have you ever heard somebody say that? Probably you've never thought that, but you know somebody that has said something like that. Maybe how about why can't things be easy, or don't I have enough to do? Well, some of these I have even thought of, or maybe even said at different times in my life. How about this one? Why do I have to suffer? Whoa. Okay. This is another thought I had was, I just want to get by. You know, it's just about getting by. Is that what life is all about? Just getting by? Just enough? Is that what you want? Just a thought. Okay. You know, isn't what I'm doing good enough? Different variations of that. And how about this one? Why do I feel so empty, so depleted, so unfulfilled? Why do I have this empty feeling inside? You know, did quite a bit of research on today, and you know, they say it's common to have some of those empty feelings, those feelings of emptiness or loneliness. In fact, one research that I found was said that 3 out of 4 Americans feel lonely or loneliness. And some other research that I've looked at, that's been several years ago, but that one of the common cause of substance abuse and alcohol abuse is, and other addictive systems or behaviors, is loneliness. Trying to fill the void, trying to fix us inside. Viktor Frankl, which is one of my heroes, he's written several books. One that's probably his most famous is Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a prisoner of war during the Second World War, and he was a prisoner in multiple, I think 7 different Nazi prisoner of war camps during the Second World War, and he was a psychologist, and as he went through this experience. And by the way, it wasn't a pleasant experience. I think he had I think I remember him saying that he had 1 in 17 chance of dying every day. So every day he woke up, he knew there was a 1 in 17 chance. In other words, you could count 17 people, and one of those 17 people, and particularly if he's of that group, was going to die that day. But he learned some things, and one of the things he learned was about meaning and purpose. And one of the things that he would say here about saying these things about why am I empty and why am I depleted, why do I feel unfilled, he'd say that it has to do with no meaning or purpose in your life. Because Viktor Frankl said that he could watch other prisoners of war and he knew when they I think it was 36 hours or 48 hours, I believe, that he knew he knew when they give up, they'd be dead in that period of time. He observed them enough to know that they had given up. They'd lost hope, and they lost their will to live or their purpose for living. They had no meaning to go on. They gave it up or lost it. And so today, this is kind of a hard subject, and I've been struggling all day trying to put together. It's been a couple of days I've been kind of formulating, but today it's been kind of challenging to really address the topic of meaning and purpose. Okay, because people are wondering. They're overwhelmed. There's things that are happening, and according to Viktor Frankl, if you know your purpose, if you have a meaning for living, then you will live. In fact, he used in his book a statement by Nietzsche, which is this, a quote from Nietzsche. It says, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." I want to say that again. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. If you have a why to live, you can endure anything. Almost, according to what Nietzsche had to say. And Viktor Frankl used that, and he knew that quote going in, but he recognized that having that will to live for a meaning, for a purpose, it sustains you in your spirit and in your body. He said he had a formula for despair, and the formula was this: it was D equals S minus M. I know that doesn't mean anything right now, but it's despair equals suffering minus meaning. His formula is, if you take suffering, and the world is full of suffering, and we all do suffer. All of us will have some suffering. All of us. We'll even talk about, we'll have a scripture here in a little bit of what Jesus said along that line. But if you take suffering and you minus meaning out of that, then you have a life of despair, a life of nihilism. Okay, no hope, no reason to live. And so what we have to do is recognize that with suffering, you add meaning to it, and then you have purpose, you have life, you have a reason to live. Reason to live. Jesus said that in this life there are many tribulations. Out of John 16:33, he says, "In this world you will have trouble." Different translation says tribulations, problems. But take heart, I have overcome the world. In the first part of that, he says, I have told you these things so that you will have peace. He wants us to have peace, even though we know that we're going to be in the midst of trouble. We're going to have suffering. We're going to have some difficulty. Those difficulties come. And what he wants to do is help us through them. Okay? Help us through them. And some people say, well, I just want to get by. I don't want to do anything. I just want to play. I just want to enjoy life. I don't want to be engaged. And you can do that. Okay? A life without meaning. But when things get hard, you don't have anything to sustain you on the inside. Because then you just, well, You don't have any hope. You're nihilistic. You fall into despair. You get overwhelmed very easily. And then you don't have spirit that will sustain you. Something to think about. Just think about it. Just think about it. Okay? Just think about it. Viktor Frankl formula, as I've already said, was meaningful and fulfilling life equals suffering and meaning. Okay? Now, some of us have more suffering, some of us have less suffering, and we all have difficulties because we go through this life, and there are waves that happen. Okay? And it's how, and you think about it, those people that you see that have confronted life and addressed life and the hardships of life and was able to not just, well, first of all, survive, but then they were able to turn life around and go ahead and thrive and enjoy life. Even though maybe they had great loss, whether it was loss of family, loss of children, loss of finances, loss of integrity. You know, it's hard to turn your life around when it's all fallen apart and rebuild it. But if you have a purpose and a why, you can do that. You can do it. I don't know if you can do it if you don't. Psalms 57:2 says this. He says, I call to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. God has created a purpose for you, and he's dropped it in your heart. He's given it to us. We have to acknowledge it. We have to embrace it. We have to be willing to live in it. We don't have to. You don't have. God's not going to force you. But the fact of it is, there is this fallen world that if we don't strive to live in that meaning or that purpose, then we fall underneath the power, the deceit, the drain of this world that will squeeze us until it chokes us. Now, is there an absolute guarantee that if I have this purpose, and all I know is we'll have a better life with it than without it. Okay, and you know people that have been able to be restored because they had that hope, that belief. I'm kind of preaching here, but I want to get back onto Viktor Frankl's story here. He says, a common symptom of emptiness is the feeling that life lacks meaning. Viktor Frankl recognizes that humans need to find Viktor Frankl recognizes the human need for finding meaning in life, even enduring hardship. During his years spent in a Nazi concentration camp, Frankl saw what happened to the prisoners that had lost or give up on their meaning and purpose to live. They died. They died quickly. And he saw the other prisoners that did live because they had a purpose, a meaning. He even told a story about that he and his friend went out on a cold, frozen earth day, and they didn't have cold weather clothes. Some of them didn't even have shoes, and they were out working forced labor, and they were just talking to each other, saying how glad they were that they were in that situation and their wives weren't. Okay? Now, the truth was both of their wives were dead. And they didn't know that they were dead. But Viktor Frankl said later on that he was grateful that he had that thought, that he was maybe taking his wife's suffering. And that helped. Even though it was not even factual. A quote from Viktor Frankl. He said he had to find beauty in everything in order to survive. When he was brought a bowl of cold, dirty water with a fish head in it for his only daily meal, he had to see the beauty in it. And he did. Now, I told that to someone just a little bit ago. I kind of paraphrased that quote. And they said, boy, that kind of puts to shame our little whininess, I think is what they said, whininess. Because he found beauty in a fish head floating in a cold, dirty bowl of water, which was his food for the day. And he found beauty in it and was thankful for it. And it was truly heartfelt. Now that's powerful. That's powerful. What are you thankful for? Better yet, what mess has come into your life that you need to find some beauty in it? Just a thought. Loneliness, and I already touched on this, that 3 out of 4 Americans are lonely. And that loneliness, there's a lot of different reasons why we can be lonely, but the fact of it is not having meaning could be definitely one of those reasons for being lonely. Emptiness can leave people feeling emotionally numb, despondent, isolated, anxious. Some describe this experience as being a empty feeling in their chest, kind of like a hole. I remember that feeling in my chest, that big old hole that seemed to be sucking whatever it could into it to fill it, but it never could. People attempt to try to fill this void in a number of different ways. Often they engage in activities that are ultimately unfulfilling. Now, isn't that the truth? Such as compulsive shopping, eating, using substances, or behaviors, acts, violence, cutting, you name it. Whatever, how about whatever you're trying to fill that void with, whether you realize it or not. Unfortunately, our consumer culture often capitalizes on this feeling of emptiness. They promise fulfillment with whatever product that they're touting or presenting. Do this and this will make everything better. This will cause you to be happy. And happiness and fulfillment isn't the same thing. A person might instead attempt to battle emotional emptiness and give new meaning to their life by some form of kindness or volunteering, maybe having a hobby that you could start doing that would bring some internal satisfaction or meaning, fulfillment. Adopt a pet. Pets can be very therapeutic for a lot of people. Okay. Or you could cultivate or maintain a spiritual relationship or practice, which I think would be very important. Prayer, meditation, Bible reading, inspirational reading. Any of these activities that could give you emotional fulfillment. Now, you say, I don't know for sure what that would be, what I could do to start to fill that emotional hole inside of me. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe that's true. But you know the things that you've tried that haven't worked. And if you know that doesn't work, don't do those anymore. Don't use those things, whatever they might be. If you know what doesn't work, don't use it anymore, because that stuff only makes you sicker. Doesn't help heal, doesn't help restore. You know that. And so you say, well, I still haven't told you specifically. No, but you know better what not to do. And when you do something that you know is not right or not working, don't do it. And eventually, you'll stumble on to what will work. Because if you really, really want to heal, really, if you do, and are willing to try, you'll find it. You'll find it. Romans 5:3-5. This is out of the ESV version. It says, we rejoice in our sufferings. Now that almost sounds like Viktor Frankl here, finding beauty, right? We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Another translation says that it develops endurance, okay? And endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame. Okay, he's not leading you in an unhealthy path. He's leading you in a healthy spiritual path. Because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Hopefully this has been some encouragement to you. If it's troubling to you, I'd like for you to think about it. See if maybe that uncomfortable feeling is trying to help you to see what it is that maybe you've even thought about and maybe partly even prayed about wanting God's help to restore you. Some of you have been hurt. Some of you have been abandoned. Some of you have been abused, and there's a part of you that's afraid to even try. Well, I'm not asking you to go make a big move. How about just a little move? Just one little small step that you can tolerate. And if you can do that, feed on that, practice that, live in that, and let it start to grow from there. Hopefully this has been a beneficial thought, encouraging word today. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care of yourself.